Hello, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started. Okay, I am calling the 2026 preliminary business meeting of the World Science Fiction Society to order. I'm going to give Alana a moment to get the screen share up before we jump into the rest of this. They are up, I think. Kurt, can we spotlight Alana's camera, maybe, is what needs to happen? Yes. There we go. Awesome. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jessie Lipp. I use they, them pronouns, and I will be the presiding officer for this meeting. You can refer to me as either mixed presiding officer or mixed chairperson. In addition to myself, the officers for this meeting are Martin Pine, who is the Deputy Presiding Officer and Parliamentarian, Ira Alexander, who is our Secretary, and Olav Rockney, who is our Timekeeper. Alana, there should be slides with the names of the staff, if you're able to go to those. Yeah, awesome. Oh, yes, and also Alana, who is handling our slides and screen share. Also on our staff, we have Kathy Bond, Warren Buff, Chris Hensley, and Chris Snyder, who are moderating the speaker pool. Jed Hartman, who has been assisting with the preparation of all of the documentation. Anna Bradley, Gail Turman, and Terry Neal have been working the help desk and tech side of things. And Kirk Dingman and Adam Zuber are our Lumi technicians. This meeting is being captioned. You can access the captioning by going to more captions and then show captions within the Zoom. If you are having any issues during the meeting, you can contact our help desk by going to the help desk channel in the Discord, or by emailing bm-help@lacon.org. Speaking of which, we have a Discord, and you are invited to join if you have not already done so. The Zoom chat is not enabled for this meeting, and so we will be using the Discord for any chat. You can access that link from within. There should be a link in the homepage on the Lumi platform. You can also get the link in the business meeting card on the LAcon member portal. The Discord, it will be open from 3 hours prior to the beginning of the session to 3 hours after adjournment, and then we'll be in read-only mode between sessions. Please note that these meetings are being recorded, with the exception of when we are in executive session. They can be found on the LAcon YouTube page, and then the recordings will be posted to the Worldcon events YouTube channel. Related to that, if you want to have your camera on during the meeting, you can do so. And if you're someone who has bandwidth issues, you can disable incoming video in Zoom so that it's audio only in order to preserve bandwidth. We use parliamentary procedure, specifically Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, to run our meetings. We use parliamentary procedure so that we can work through the large number of complicated items before us in a fair and organized manner, ensuring that both minority and majority opinions are heard. The goal of parliamentary procedure is to help us handle our business, and when we all work together toward that goal, that is when parliamentary procedure is best able to serve its purpose. To quote from Parliamentary Law, which is a supplementary text that was published by Henry Robert, the original author of Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary law should be the servant, not the master of the assembly. The assembly meets to transact business, not to have members exploit their knowledge of parliamentary law. If you are new to using parliamentary procedure or to the WSFS business meeting, I know that it can be intimidating. My job and the job of all of the business meeting staff is to help guide you all through that process so that we may accomplish the business of the society. And the job of all of us is to use parliamentary procedure wisely. Parliamentary procedure confers upon all of us rights and obligations, and one of those obligations is to consider whether a course of action, even if we are entitled to it, is in the best interest of the organization. As we move through motions, you will find that motions are like ogres, which are like onions, and they have layers. So we may have a main motion that we are taking up, and then somebody makes an amendment, and then somebody tries to refer it to committee. And so as we move through these layers of the motion that get added, we are always dealing with the most recent motion that was made, and we need to resolve that item before we can go back to the layer underneath it. There is a parliamentary procedure chart in the Documents tab, which you can review. It has information about the motions that can be made and when they are proper and what needs to happen in order to do so. In that Documents tab, like I said, there's the parliamentary procedure chart. Oh, sorry, I have skipped over a whole section of my script. 1 second. Okay, there we go. The Documents tab, it also has the full agenda. It has the virtual meeting instructions and it may not have the virtual meeting instructions, actually. I'm realizing I may have forgotten to add that. It will, eventually, sorry. And the current standing rules and constitution. And it will eventually have like statements from candidates for election to committees once we get to that point. It may take a moment for items in that document tab to load. If you are wishing to speak to an item of business, you will click on the Speaker Pool tab. That's where you will select your purpose for speaking, such as a speech in favor, a speech against, what kind of motion you're making, and then in the text field, you'll enter the item number, such as F.1 or F.1 Jones Amendment. In the All Messages tab, we will have a posted message that says what the current item of business is to help folks follow along with where we are. If you are selecting the other parliamentary option, you need to include what motion you are wanting to make in that text field. If you're joining from a multi-member household where you have multiple folks who are in the meeting, but only one of you has joined the Zoom, please make sure to put the name of the account that is connected to the Zoom in that text field so we know who to unmute. And you can easily see your Zoom name by opening up the participants list in the Zoom. Similarly, if you have joined the Zoom via call-in audio, then we need you to put your phone number that you have access to the Zoom through in that text field so that we know who to unmute. Lastly, if you're submitting a point of order, a parliamentary inquiry, or a request for information, it's very helpful if you give a brief explanation of your point or inquiry in that text field. However, not doing so will not prevent you from being recognized. Once you have submitted your request to speak, it gets sent to the speaker pool, and our speaker pool moderation folks will take care of categorizing the request for me and then assigning folks to the floor. When I recognize you to speak, please use the raise hand function in the Zoom to allow the Lumi Tech to easily find you and request you to unmute. You can choose whether or not you want to have your camera on when you're speaking. Please make sure that you are ready to speak when you're recognized. If you're not prepared to speak, we will move on to the next person. When you begin speaking, please introduce yourself and give your pronouns. And please remember that debate must be civil and it must be germane, which is relevant to the item of business currently before us. We set debate times by the total number of minutes for speeches in favor and against. So if debate time is set at 6 minutes, that means there's 3 minutes for a speech for and 3 minutes for a speech against. And neutral items like a point of order or debate on subsidiary motions, that time comes out equally from both sides. As we move through the meeting and speakers are recognized and items of business are disposed of, we will be archiving requests to speak. When your request has been archived, you'll see a response from the moderator indicating that. If you submit a request to speak and you change your mind, you can select retract a request and use the text field to indicate which request you are retracting. The more information you can give the speaker pool moderators about the request you're retracting, especially if you have submitted multiple, the more helpful it is for them. You don't need to retract a request that has already been archived. In addition, we will be archiving items as they are no longer relevant. So if you're wanting to postpone indefinitely and somebody else makes that motion, we'll take care of archiving the request for you. There is an option in the request to speak categories for a speaker pool report. Per the additional rules, a member may at any time use the request to speak function to request a report from the presiding officer on the population of the speaker pool, which shall function as a question of privilege. Upon receiving the request, the presiding officer shall verbally report the number of speakers in the pool for speeches in favor, speeches against, and other purposes. If more than 2 such reports have already been provided during the current item of business, it's at the discretion of the presiding officer to determine if the frequency or timing of such requests has become dilatory and to decline to recognize such requests. In addition, we are trying something a little new this year. So when we are doing the slide share during the main part of the meeting, the slides that are being shared will include a count of the current number of requests in the speaker pool, the total number of folks wanting to speak in favor, the number of folks wanting to speak against, and then the total number of folks wanting to make other motions such as amendments, refer to committee to end debate. But that is something we are testing out. So there is still that speaker pool report option if it turns out that showing that speaker pool count just isn't working as well as we would like. Sometimes motions require a second. We will be using the raise hand function in Zoom to second motions. You can raise your hand as soon as the motion is made, and I will also be making sure to ask if there's a second. In the same way, sometimes I will ask for unanimous consent of the body to do something rather than needing to take a vote. That will sound like me saying, is there any objection to? And if you wish to object, please use that raise hand function in the Zoom. When it comes time to vote, the vote will automatically appear on your screen and you will just select how you wish to vote. For folks who are on mobile, I believe that you will get a little pop-up telling you that there's a vote open, and then you can click that and cast your vote. You cast your vote just by clicking whichever option you want, and then you can change your vote just by clicking the other option. And then there's also an option to completely cancel your vote by clicking cancel. I will generally hold the vote open for about a minute. I'm able to see how many votes have been cast in real time. And so the timing of how long the vote is open will be adjusted based on how quickly you all are doing your voting, and also if it is incredibly obvious that, if everyone is voting a certain way, then I don't need to hold the vote open for a terribly long time. So we are going to go ahead and do a test vote right now. So if we can go ahead and open up that vote. So the question before you is Disneyland or Disney World? And so you can go ahead and vote. Okay, we can go ahead and close the, well, no, let's keep it open. Or no, we'll go ahead and close it. It's a fake vote. It doesn't matter. Okay, so with 50 for Disneyland and 47 for Disney World, Disneyland wins, but just barely. I kind of feel like I need to remind you all that this year's Worldcon is being held in Anaheim, and that, maybe more people should have voted for Disneyland. Okay, with that, we are going to get ready to dive into things. Our goal for today is to handle committee reports, nominations for the Mark Protection Committee, standing rule changes, and resolutions. So we will start with some brief verbal reports from committees. So for the MPC, I believe Warren Buff is the chair of that and will be presenting the report.
Yes, hello, Warren Buff, he, him. I am this year's Mark Protection Committee chair. This year, we have continued with an ongoing process of registering Worldcon and Hugo Award in Australia. The Worldcon mark was successfully registered, and while we were still waiting on the withdrawal of an objection to Hugo Award, we have received that since we submitted our report. So that will be detailed in next year's report. But I wanted to go ahead and share that there was good news on that front. We also completed a license agreement that we were asked by the business meeting to implement so that bids and then seated Worldcons have agreed to use the Worldcon marks in appropriate ways. We put that together, and at the time, the two filed bidders, now just one, for this year's Worldcon, went ahead and signed that. They submitted that as part of their filings to be on the ballot this year, and we believe that that is what we've been tasked by the business meeting with doing, and it's now successfully implemented. Our list of members is in the report. We do have two appointed members whose terms are expiring, David Innes and Alyssa Wales. We'd like to thank them for their service to the committee. We would also like, we would like to remind whoever wins this year's Worldcon to please have someone ready to be appointed as their representative to the Mark Protection Committee so that they can participate in the second Mark Protection Committee meeting after the site selection business meeting this year. Both of our meetings at Worldcon are open to the public. If you are, well, to the membership. If you are in attendance at LA, you're welcome to come and watch. And then the other order of business beyond what's in the report is that we will need to elect new members for the election terms that have expired this year. That's Judy Bemis, Joni Dashoff, and Mike Wilmoth are the members whose terms are expiring. And I'm prepared to take questions if anyone has any.
Okay, if anybody has any questions for the Mark Protection Committee, okay, I do see that we have one, which is, why are we registering, from Gary Blog, why are we registering the trademarks in Australia this year? Wasn't that done for the 99 Worldcon?
So I can't really answer directly as to what the Mark Protection Committee did in the 1990s. It doesn't appear that there were active registrations on Worldcon and Hugo Award in Australia, so we did need to register them. And that process is nearly complete on Hugo Award. It is complete on Worldcon. And at this point, we should just need to maintain those registrations to hold on to them.
Okay. If there's anybody else who has a question for the MPC, you can go ahead and submit it using, kind of whichever category you want to use, honestly. So I'm going to give you all just a few more seconds to see if anybody else has any questions. Okay. Doesn't look like anybody else has any questions. So that means that our next item before we jump into the other committee reports is to take nominations for the Mark Protection Committee. As Warren said, Judy Bemis, Joni Dashoff, and Mike Wilmuth's terms on the MPC are ending this year. So we're electing folks for those 3 positions, which is a 3-year term that will end in 2029. So nominations for the Mark Protection Committee are now open. You can use the nominate option in the speaker pool tab. Select nominate from the drop down and put the name of who you're nominating in the text field, and I will read off the names that have been nominated. And for the speaker pool moderators, you can just keep those all in the needs review tab. Okay, so we have a nomination for... Okay, I've been told that I got very quiet. One moment, let me move my microphone closer to my face and make sure that all of my inputs are turned up. And then I can also just remember to speak louder. Is that better? I'm asking my staff mostly. Okay, that is better. Great. Okay. We have a nomination for Alan Bond nominates Arturo Serrano, and Alan Bond also nominates Alana Vincent. Perianne Lurie nominates Joni Dashoff. Cliff Dunn nominates Gary Blogg. Gary Blogg nominates Joni Dashoff. It's a nice little almost circle of names there. Linda Deneroff nominates Judy Bemis and Martin Pine. Kayla Allen nominates Linda Ross Mansfield. And then to the speaker pool moderators, as I read these off, you can move them into the archive tab. It's another for Joni. Todd Dashoff nominates himself. Kayla Allen nominates Cliff Dunn. And Cliff Dunn nominates Mike Wilmuth. Alan Bond nominates Kat Kerbetti. We have a nomination for Alan Bond, but Alan Bond is already on the MPC in an elected position. Is there anybody else wishing to nominate somebody for MPC? Linda Deneroff nominates Ruth Sachter. And Alan Bond nominates Warren Buff. Warren is in a position that is appointed by Seattle. And so even though Warren is currently a member of the MPC, he is eligible for moving to an elected position. Okay, Olav Rockney nominates Jesse Lipp, who is me. Gonna see if there's anybody else that comes through. While I'm waiting to see if there's any other nominations, I'm going to read off who we currently have. We have Arturo Serrano, Alana Vincent, Joni Dashoff, Gary Blogg, Judy Bemis, Martin Pine, Linda Ross Mansfield, Todd Dashoff, Cliff Dunn, Mike Wilmoth, Kat Kerbetti, Ruth Sachter, Warren Buff, and Jesse Lipp. And Meg McDonald also nominates Brianne Reeves. John Coxon nominates Andrew January. RGB nominates Chris Snyder, also known as Enchanter. We have another nomination for Martin Pine. He's already been nominated. Once again, I'm just going to give you all probably about, seems like we've tapered off, so I'm going to give you all about 30 more seconds to see if there's anyone else. As a reminder to folks, it's very helpful if you just use the speaker pool request for the purpose that it's intended for. If you have a fun thing that you want to communicate to business meeting staff, please do so in the Discord. Please don't try to use the messaging function for that. John Coxon nominates Rosanna Pendlebury. There we go. Well, I guess I don't know if that's correct, but those are the sounds I was trying to make. Cliff Dunn nominates Joe Van. I've been informed you can hear my dog snoring. I don't know that I have a way to stop that from happening. So, she's not snoring. That's just how she breathes, but sorry about that. I can tell you right now that there's a nomination for Zaza, my dog. I don't know if we have a requirement that NPC folks have to be natural persons, but she declines the nomination. I'm once again going to give you all about 30 seconds. I'm aware that I've just subjected myself to a slew of nominations for my dog coming in. I'm going to give you all about 30 seconds to see if there's any more nominations that come in. Clifton, I'm assuming that that is a joke nomination. If it's serious, can you please submit another request and clarify that that's a fan name for somebody? Okay, I think it's been at least 30 seconds of no nominations other than silly ones and my dog. So we will go ahead and say that nominations are closed unless there is any objection. Seeing none, nominations are closed. If you have been nominated, please email bm-candidate@lacon.org by 3 hours prior to the start of the July 26th session with your consent to nomination. Even if you are declining your nomination, it is very helpful if you still go ahead and email us and let us know that, so that we know that it's not just that you've been forgotten. If you nominated somebody who is not present at the meeting today, it is your responsibility to let them know that they have been nominated and need to communicate if they accept or decline that nomination to us, as we don't know how to get into contact with everyone. When you email bm-candidate@lacon.org, you can also include a brief statement of no more than 300 words about why you would like to be elected, and we will post that in the Discord and then also in a master document that will live in Lumi. When I post the meeting recap for the LAcon website, that will also include a list of everyone that was nominated. I am going to read out that list of names once more. We have Arturo Serrano, Alana Vincent, Joni Dashoff, Gary Blogg, Judy Bemis, Martin Pine, Linda Ross Mansfield, Todd Dashoff, Cliff Dunn, Mike Wilmoth, Kat Kerbetti, Ruth Sachter, Warren Buff, Jesse Lipp, Brianne Reeves, Andrew January, Chris Snyder or Enchanter, Rosanna Pendlebury, and Joe Van. So those are the nominations for the Market Protection Committee, and the election will be held at next week's meeting on July 26th. Okay, so moving back to the rest of the committee reports. Next, we have the nitpicking and fly specking committee report. I can't remember which of us is actually giving that report, if it's Martin or Dawn or somebody else. Although I will say I don't see Dawn in the list of participants, so I think probably Martin, it's you.
Okay. So the nitpicking and fly specking committee this year, we've proposed a few fairly minor standing rules changes, and a resolution. We'll get to the meat of that at the appropriate time. But this resolution is mostly just cleanup. We've had a number of changes to how we handle Hugo Awards passed in the last couple of years, and the idea is just to keep everything consistent. We'll get to those at the appropriate time. We would also like to remind Worldcon committees that if you haven't done financial reports, you still need to send financial reports. And we'll be dealing with, obviously, the business meeting will be handling financial reports shortly. We also requested that the business meeting secretary updated a reference from the final reference that was still left in the Constitution to the John W. Campbell Award, to call it the Astounding Award, also to remove a reference in the standing rules to the Retro Hugo, since we abolished the Retro Hugos. The nitpick and fly specking committee requests reappointment for the upcoming year.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the nitpicking and fly specking committee? If so, you can submit them once again using pretty much whichever category you want. Oh, I do have, hold on. I'm going to turn on the request for committee label that I forgot we had. It just isn't visible right now. Okay, you should be able to see the question for committee option now. So you can use that. Going to give you all just a little bit more. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions for nitpicking and fly specking. Or nope, we do. The question is current membership to remain the same. So what I was just about to say is there any objection to continuing the nitpicking and fly specking committee as currently constituted? If so, please use the raise hand. Okay, seeing no objection, nitpicking and fly specking is continued for another year as currently constituted. We did not get reports submitted by the Worldcon Runner's Guide Editorial Committee or the Formalization of Long Lists Committee. Regardless, is there any objection to continuing those committees as currently constituted? Okay, seeing none, both of those committees are continued as they currently are. Okay, moving to our special committees. These are committees that were formed out of specific items of business last year. First, we have the Sparkle Unicorn Committee, which is also the Ethics and Whistleblower Committee. For those of you who are not present at last year's meeting, there was a question about the names of committees, and I said that because names of committees are not substantive, they could call themselves the Sparkle Unicorn Committee, and I would accept a report from them. And thus, that is why they are now referred to as that. And I know we have discussed this, and I have forgotten who from that committee was going to give their report. So if you will be giving the Sparkle Unicorn Committee report, if you can raise the hand, or okay, Alan Bond.
All right, thank you, Mixed Chair. The Sparkle Unicorn Committee met relatively regularly through the year. We started off working on the ethics policy. When we had that resolved, we ran it past the MPC for any objections. We then moved on to the whistleblower policy. When we completed that, we ran it past the MPC for further objections. The reason we ran things past the MPC is because the standing body of the business meeting that exists throughout the year is the MPC, and that committee would be affected the most by the policies that we were proposing. We understood our purview to be limited to the business of WSFS and not the business of the various Worldcons, except as it pertains to the business of WSFS. And so wrote our ethics policy with that respect. We looked at similar organizations that run events and run awards, and built our ethics policy based on that observations. The major difference is that WSFS does not have a standing board in the way that most of those organizations do. The biggest challenge we found was looking at the conflicts of interest, because almost everybody in the fan community is closely connected to someone who is eligible for an award. And so that was the thing that we really had to navigate. We have 4 motions that we are proposing to the body. One is a constitutional amendment to establish an ombuds office. One is the code of ethics itself. One is the whistleblower policy, and one is to create an interim ombuds office. So those are the things that we have proposed to the body. We are not requesting to be continued as we have completed the work that was assigned to us by the body.
Okay, thank you. If there's anybody who has any questions for the Sparkle Unicorn Committee, you can go ahead and submit those. I'm presuming that you could have done so during the report itself, so I'm just going to give you a little bit more time to see if anybody has any questions. Okay, oh, I do see one, sorry. So we have a question, and if we can go ahead and unmute Alan Bond again. So we have a question from Perry Ann Lurie. Is it your intent for all conflicts of interest to be disqualifying?
So when you get to the conflicts of interest section, we limited it to specific situations. A conflict of interest should be understood as a situation in which a person with an official duty has a private or personal interest, positive or negative, sufficient to appear to influence the execution of their duty. So, for example, WSFS volunteers involved in the administration of the Hugo Awards being personally involved or professionally affiliated in a manner directly connected to the nominated work with any named finalist should be disqualifying. WSFS volunteers involved in the administration of site selection during a given year should not be affiliated with any bid being voted on in that year. And WSFS volunteers involved in administration of the Hugo Awards and site selection should avoid any action which creates or allows for the suspicion of undue influence by members of the awards administration committee, i.e., saying publicly who should win or be involved in betting on the winners.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Going to give you all a little bit more time just to see if there are any more questions. Okay, not seeing any. We will move on to the business meeting study group. I believe that Kat Corbetti will be presenting. Yep, if we can go ahead and unmute Kat for a report from the business meeting study group.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. Just going to scroll down to the right page of the agenda. So the business meeting study group was formed not last year, the year before. And so this was us kind of continuing the work that we started, trying to look at either, or rather both, larger scale reform to the business meeting process, which is how we meet. So whether or not, we adopt like an entirely different format, ditch Robert's rules and use something else, etc. And then also kind of like the minutia of how those things would work. We had initially split off into 3 subcommittees that kind of focused on different areas of this. This year, after what we consider resounding success of the virtual business meetings of last year, the primary focus was how do we streamline what we saw works rather than look at big picture massive changes like abolishing the business meeting entirely and moving to some other format of meeting. We consider that what we did last year, and indeed what we are doing now, has been tremendously successful in both engaging a larger pool of people in getting Worldcon volunteers into the business meetings and being able to participate. And also, I'm joining you from London today, which is something that I'm super happy to be able to do, because otherwise I would not be able to be at the business meeting this year. And so it's about making the business meeting accessible, in large part making it easier, and that's kind of what we hope to continue. So we would like to ask for a continuation of the committee so that we can continue looking at that process. I believe that there are some members of the committee that would like to continue looking at big picture changes, but for more long term rather than just now. So we have brought forth a couple of suggestions, resolutions rather, to just streamline what we are doing right now and to encase it in the Constitution so that so that there's no doubt that these meetings are constitutional and that my cat also approves of them. So that's kind of the gist. The report is quite short on the agenda document, and then the resolutions are also included in there somewhere.
Okay, thank you. Can you clarify, Kat, my understanding is that this year the chairs of the committee were Colin Harris and yourself.
Yes.
Is that who's you're requesting to continue in the chair position
For now,
for
yes.
next year?
Yes, if that were to change partway through the year or anything like that, we would notify. But that is the intent. Yes.
Okay, so we do have a question / an amendment being made. So I'm going to first phrase it as a question to you, Kat, and then give Cliff Dunn the opportunity to make an amendment if he so chooses. So basically he's asking if the current chair of the committee makes sense that communication was lacking during the year. And so I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to that to see if that allays his concerns before we move to making an actual amendment.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Cliff. And I totally get that. Yes, I think part of what made communication kind of fall apart a little bit this year on the committee is that I was a little overrun with trial committee things, which will come up in a different meeting. And Colin Harris was overwhelmed with life things. And so it just so transpired that things kind of weren't as regular as they were the year before. The intent is for that to not happen again. As far as I'm concerned, I would like to delegate more leadership kind of positions in those conversations to folks who are on the committee, including Cliff himself and other folks who are in this meeting presently, and to give them the capability to lead those discussions and not necessarily expect permission. What Colin and I wanted to do last year and are hoping to do next year is to just kind of manage those streams, if you will, to just gather what everybody's talking about and put it all together in one place, and also potentially do some kind of like bigger meeting so that everyone is aware of what we're all working on. So that's the kind of general idea and hope, and any of the members of the committee who do want to be involved in that, do speak to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Cliff, if you are still wanting to make your amendment, I will give you the opportunity to do so. However, I want to handle other questions for the committee first before we handle the motion to continue the committee and possibly amend that. So we do have a question that is coming from Jim Keller about, is the plan to have this committee be a standing committee where the way business meetings can be conducted can be changed by the committee at any time? So I'm going to go ahead and answer this. So to clarify for folks, a standing committee is a committee that exists within our standing rules or a resolution that has created an ongoing committee. We do still have to sort of continue those every year, but standing committees exist on a continuing basis, essentially, whereas special committees are created just for a specific purpose, and once they handle that purpose, they move on and are no longer a committee. So I don't hear from Kat the intention of this is to become a standing committee, but I will also say that regardless, it will always be, unless we change our rules significantly. Currently, any changes to how the business meeting can be conducted, those changes still have to go through either a standing rules change or, in specific situations, a constitutional change that are debated and voted on by this body. We would have to significantly change our governing documents to empower a specific committee to be allowed to make those sorts of changes without it coming to this body for discussion and a vote. And Kat,
Yes,
if I'm
and to
incorrect
answer,
about you
yeah,
wanting
no,
to be
entirely correct. We do not intend to be or to function as a standing committee per se. If we find the need for such a committee to exist, we will make that recommendation. Currently, we don't think that we need to exist in that capacity. If that were to be the case, I think it would be a different committee.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions that have come in from you. So the Kat has made the motion for the business meeting study committee to be reconstituted as it currently stands. And that motion, since it comes from the committee itself, does not require a second. And so I will recognize Cliff Dunn for an amendment.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. Kat, I just wanted to ask, it was primarily the trial committee that kept you snarled for this past year?
Mostly, yes.
All right. I'd like to move to just have Kat Corbetti be the sole chair.
Okay.
Thanks.
So it has been moved
I think.
to amend the motion to essentially strike Colin Harris from the chair of the business meeting study group so that the only chair is Kat Corbetti. Is there a second? If so, you can use the raise the hand function. I do see a second. Okay.
May I object?
You can object. I mean, you can register your objection essentially as a speech against, but this is
Sure.
not a function where the objection of a single member prevents it from happening. Except that I will note that in general, we do not force people to take roles on committees without their consent, because I don't even know how that would function. So if you wish to inform the body at large that you do not consent to being the sole chair of a committee, and if that is what happens, you would step down from that role, like that is a thing that you can inform the membership of. And for the sake of ease of getting through our business, if you wish to do that, I'm going to just allow you to do that right now rather than doing a whole speech in favor.
Sure. I mean, yes, I don't think that I would be able to chair this whole thing by myself. The only reason I accepted the position of co-chair was that Colin Harris, who has way more experience in these things than I, offered to help. I think a lot of the conversations that happened certainly between Colin and myself, I don't know, between Colin and other people, happened like at conventions throughout the year rather than officially through like committee meetings. And it was my kind of understanding that, oh yeah, like this is going to kind of happen eventually. If this were to like pass, I don't think that I would be able to chair this myself. I gotta be honest. I need support. Otherwise, yeah. So.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So we have had essentially another amendment come in requesting a different chair. And so I believe at this point we have basically just moved from an amendment to nominations. Martin, is that?
Yeah, it's either nominations or fill in the blank, and they're essentially the same thing in this case. So.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think we need to have a vote on basically whether we are reconstituting the committee as currently formed first, and then if that fails, handle nominations for chair, Martin, or should we just move straight into nominations for chair?
I think we're in nominations because I think technically we're amending the motion to reconstitute.
Okay, good point. Okay. So at this point, we are going to basically move into nominations for chair of this committee. And so then we will handle elections for that. We're going to see how many nominations we get. If we get a lot, then we're going to handle elections for chair, probably the same way we're going to handle like MPC elections. If we only get a few, then we will do the nominations, or sorry, the election using the fill in the blank method, where we basically, we can't really do, because there's not a natural order to move in. So we will, we're going to have to handle it via something like the MPC elections. So, okay. Sorry, this has become a little bit of a complicated thing, and we don't normally deal with this with our special committees. So what I'm going to, and I do see a point of order that was literally what I was about to say. So at this point, where we are is essentially that a motion has been made to strike the current, so we have a motion to reconstitute the committee as currently formed. An amendment has been made to essentially strike the chair position from that committee. So we are going to vote on that amendment first. So should that amendment pass, then we will vote on whether or not we're even going to reconstitute the committee at all. And then if we do, we will handle elections for the chair of that committee. If the amendment to strike the existing chair of the committee does not pass, then we will be simply moving to a vote to reconstitute the committee as currently formed. I know this is very complicated, so I'm going to just say that again. What is before us right now is a committee to reconstitute a motion to reconstitute the committee as currently formed. Cliff Dunn has made a motion, and there has been a second to amend that motion so that we are reconstituting the committee with a new chair to be elected. So we need to decide if we are going to accept that amendment to change the original motion to say that the chair of the committee will be elected, or if we are going to reject that amendment and go back to the original motion to reconstitute the committee as originally formed. I have several questions and parliamentary inquiries in the queue, so give me one moment. Okay, so we can resolve Kim Keller's point of order because that's what I originally responded to. So we have a parliamentary inquiry from Christina Forsyth of if we can vote on a new co-chair and keep Kat. So if you wish for the chair of the committee to be something other than Colin Harris and Kat Corbetti, then you would be voting in favor of the Cliff Dunn amendment to change the motion so that the chair of the committee is elected. I will say, if we move to a formal election of the chair of this committee, it will be a single person. Co-chairs are they are a thing we do in acknowledgement of the amount of work that a committee is and who has been doing that work. But from a strict procedural matter, and if we are moving to an election of the chair of this committee, it is a strict procedural matter, then it has a single chair. It does not have a co-chair. We also have a parliamentary inquiry from Kat Corbetti if we can select chairs or co-chairs internally from existing members of the committee. That would not really, I mean, if the committee is reconstituted, then the chair of the committee can, well, whether it's reconstituted as currently or if we elect a new chair, the committee can hold an election itself to choose a chair. But because we are currently in the space sort of between the previous version of the committee existing and the new version of the committee existing, we can't really only choose from internally from the committee members for the chair, if that makes sense. Okay, I think that handles both of those high priority items. I do see a hand from Cliff Dunn. I'm going to go ahead and recognize you because I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but
Yes. Can you hear me?
yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, given that we have business meetings spread out over several weeks, could we allow the committee to make a recommendation due back next week of who they might like to chair?
We
I'm sorry.
could. Are you okay? I'm trying to figure out the
I'm
best
trying
way.
to cut the Gordian knot here.
Yeah, I know. But you've kind of added another layer to the knot instead. So here's what I'm going to ask. Is there, if we can lower all the hands that are currently up, because I'm going to be asking for an objection to something. Okay. This is essentially going to function as a suspension of the rules to just do a thing. Is there any objection to taking away from us all of the current stuff and just instructing the business meeting study group to report back to the next meeting with who they would like as their chair for next year to then be voted on when reconstituting the committee by the body? Okay, seeing no objection, it is so ordered. So the business meeting study group will report back to the next meeting with who they would like to be their chair, and we will take up handling that item when they report back. I did see a parliamentary inquiry that I am going to handle real quick, I believe from Meg McDonald, asking about what requires there to only be one chair instead of co-chairs. And that's just a function of parliamentary procedure. Like when you look at the sort of rules around committees and nominations and such, there isn't really a mechanism for having multiple chairs of a committee. The same as there is not a mechanism for having multiple presiding officers for this meeting. Certainly, if that is something we really wanted to do, we could sit down and figure out how to write rules that would do that, but it would be a thing to do so. And I just got a parliamentary inquiry about how do we change the rules to allow a mechanism for co-chairs. I think I just answered, it would require writing specific rules about how when things are just handled informally, it's fine, but the rules would need to account for if we are getting to the point where we're having nominations and elections and handling it formally, how that works. Is it do we handle it essentially like the MPC and having multiple seats open? Do we elect one position first and then the next? Does the order that they're elected in matter? How do we decide how many co-chairs a committee has? Sort of all of that. Okay, we have another parliamentary inquiry. Okay, so Meg McDonald's clarifying. What can we do to make it so that a person can be chair of only one committee at any time? I see. So that would be, we could either, if we want to make it a strict requirement of our rules, that would be an addition to, would it be our standing rules or constitution? If we're
Standing rules.
Thank you, Cliff. I will remind the body that there's only one presiding officer. So in general, it would be a change to our standing rules saying that somebody could only chair a single committee. Because the MPC also exists, I would have to confer with my staff about whether if that rule is also referencing chairing the MPC, if that then requires us to get into the Constitution. But in general, it would require a change to the standing rules. Okay. So where we are is that we have instructed the business meeting study group to report back to the next meeting with who they would like to be their chair for the next year. And then we will handle the decision on whether or not to reconstitute the business meeting study group and how at that time. Okay, I am reviewing the speaker pool queue, or the speaker pool, to make sure we're good. Okay, I think we can clear out the stuff in the second order against and in the regular priority with where we are now. Okay, so that is the business meeting study group. Okay, the next committee is, and so just to give you all where we are, so we have one more committee to take a verbal report from, and then we will see if there are any questions for Worldcon committees about their financial reports, and then we will have our bio break before we move into the rest of our schedule for today. I believe Cliff Dunn is the person who might have a report from the 2025 items referred committee. Cliff, if you can raise your hand if you have a report to give. Okay, I'll recognize Cliff Dunn. Cliff, I saw your hand went up and then it went down. Are you... Okay.
Yes, I don't know why it went down. Yay, technology.
I think it was part of unmuting you. Sorry, and I just looked at the wrong time.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Yeah. Basically, we took the matter, the items that were sent forward. We dropped one of them. Several of them got re-amended, but since they were rather different things, rather than being one coherent topic, we opted to submit them as individual items of business rather than as by the committee, just because it seemed neater, as weird as that sounds. So we've got several items on the agenda. I think we've actually improved them since last year. And thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to see if there are any questions for the 2025 items referred committee. Okay. Seeing none, we are going to move to, financial reports from Worldcons. So as a reminder to folks, I can't guarantee or require that there is somebody here to answer any questions that you have, but we can ask questions. So if you have a question regarding the financial reports, you can submit those using the question for committee. So I do have two questions from Cliff Dunn. The first is, were any other reports submitted after the deadline? I do not believe that we had any financial reports that were submitted that are not in the published agenda. The secretary can correct me if I'm misremembering.
That is correct.
Okay. If committees that have not submitted a financial report do so before we get the minutes done, then we generally will stick those in the minutes. I believe we messed up and failed to do so with Lone Star Con last year. But in general, we will add those reports to the minutes if they get to us later. And then Cliff Dunn has a question specifically to Lone Star Con and Sasquan. Do they have ongoing or established programs to dispose of the remaining funds? If there's somebody from Lone Star Con or Sasquan who is available to answer that question, if you could raise the hand so that we can recognize you. I'm going to give them a little bit to see if there's somebody. Okay, I see Linda Deneroff, who I'll recognize.
Unmute. Hi. I don't believe that Sasquatch has a program as such. They give a scholarship, but they require that people apply for the scholarship. They don't just award one. And they did not give one this year.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody from Lone Star Con who is available to answer that question? I'm scrolling the participants to see if there's any names that jump out that might be that person. I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, so not seeing anyone. Are there any other questions for... Okay. Okay, I'm going to recognize Cliff Dunn for a motion. Or actually, sorry, before you start talking, what I'm going to ask instead, can you tell the body what you are wanting to do and then type up the actual text of what you want to do, and we will handle it during resolutions time, just so that we're not trying to do stuff on the fly again?
That's fine. The short answer is that since Sasquatch has indicated they have an ongoing disposition of the funds, which is down to about $20,000, I would like to move that we deem that sufficient for purposes of report submission and excuse them for future submissions, because having committees from 15, 20 years ago submitting financial reports doesn't really do anything but create a paperwork headache for some people, and is more likely to just simply result in them trailing off, as a number of other committees seem to be trailing off. So I'd rather we be able to just simply say you've done your job and excuse them from future submissions.
Okay, thank you. So that is your intention. So I'm going to ask you to write that up in the form of an actual motion that we will handle during the time of resolutions. And one of the things that I will also be doing during our bio break is discussing with my staff whether or not we believe that is in compliance with our Constitution. Essentially, we will be treating this as a late item of business that I am allowing onto the agenda, presuming that I decide that I rule that it is in order, which I'm not sure yet. I'm putting a pin in that. Okay. Are there any other questions for the financial reports or regarding the financial reports from Worldcons? Okay. Seeing none, we are going to... And I'm Cliff Dunn. Are you needing to be recognized again, or can you lower the hand if not?
I just wanted to ask, what do you want me to use to submit the motion?
Please email it to bm-submit@lacon.org. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other questions for Worldcon committees, we are going to take our bio break. This is a little bit early, but given where we are in the agenda, I think this makes the most sense. And so we are going to be on break for 15 minutes, and we will resume at 1:30, whichever hour you are on. If you're on a half-hour time zone, you're responsible for doing the math. But in 15 minutes, we will return from recess. Thank you. Okay, folks. There's my camera. Okay, it is past, and so we are going to go ahead and get started again. And so we are going to move to standing rule changes. I'm going to give Alana a second to adjust the slide share. Or no, we'll just handle debate time setting. Let me pull up my script. Okay. So the next item in front of us is standing rule changes, which can be found starting on page 15 of your agenda. And so I am going to suggest the following debate times for these items. As a reminder, the way we set debate times is that I propose a debate time and ask if there's any objection. If someone objects to the debate time I've proposed, we'll then immediately vote on my suggestion. If there is not a majority in favor of my proposed debate time, we'll take suggestions from the floor and then vote on those suggestions one by one in ascending order until something gets a majority vote. We will see if we can set debate times for all of these items as a whole first, and if not, we'll move on to them one by one. As a note on debate times, please realize that debate times are not real time. Every minute of debate time is about 2 to 3 minutes of real time, and that increases as more motions are made. So for the standing rule changes, I am proposing the following. For C.1, calling the question at any point, 4 minutes. For C.2, minimum substantive debate on main motions, 2 minutes. And for C.3, business meeting dislocation, 6 minutes. Is there any objection to these proposed debate time for standing rule changes? If so, please raise the hand. Okay, seeing none, these debate times are adopted. So for these items and for everything, if you are the maker of the proposal, or you're going to be making the first speech in favor on behalf of a motion, or on behalf of a maker, please go ahead and submit when we get to your item, or right before we get to your item, please go ahead and submit a request to speak for a speech in favor, and put like first speech or maker of the motion in the text field, and that will assist me in making sure I know who to recognize to speak. And if I don't see any requests like that, I'll attempt to recognize the maker of the motion, and if they're not here, I'll just move to someone who wishes to speak in favor. So for C.1, calling the question at any point, I'm going to recognize Martin Pine.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. The Nitpicking and Fly-Specking Committee moved this motion to essentially streamline our previous question process. Right now, there's kind of a donut hole where it's not in order when there's less than 1 minute, but it is in order when all time has expired. And the intent of this rule was originally so we don't take more time calling the question than we would to just expire debate. But in recent practice, we've mostly just spent a lot of time with people confused about it, how it operates. Also, the previous question cuts off subsidiary motions, and it's actually useful to be able to do that at any time without having to know the magic words, suspend the rules and move the previous question, which is the exact same vote threshold. It just requires knowing magic words. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech in favor. I'm going to recognize Cliff Dunn for an amendment.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. I move to strike the striking of shall not be in order and when either or both sides of the debate have yet to speak to a question. And my reasoning, if I may, is that while I agree with fixing the donut hole, that's a procedural headache that just ends up with us with the chair having to clarify. What you really want to do is, I do think having language in there that says, no, really, at least let the first AF and first neg speak before you call the question makes sense, especially since any amendment in particular that has gotten to the floor will have survived the PBM, so it is at least implicit that we want to discuss it.
Mixture, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm trying to mute when I'm not on so that you don't hear my keyboard clicky clacks, but then sometimes I forget. Okay, so you are wanting to strike the shall not be in order and the when either or both sides debate have yet to speak to the question, so that it will read, a person speaking to a motion may not immediately offer a motion for the previous question, also known blah, 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 when there is less than 1 minute of debate. No, sorry.
I think it's easy. Mixed Chair, I think it would work better if the amendment also removed the to close debate, the motion strikeout.
Okay, so I'm going to ask if Cliff's okay with that in a second. So it would say, a person speaking to a motion may not immediately offer a motion to close debate. Well, then that gets... Okay, go ahead and remove that, Alana, and go back to just what Cliff suggested. Okay, so what Cliff is asking for would read, after the amendment, a person speaking to a motion may not immediately offer a motion for the previous question, also known as etc., shall not be in order when either or both sides of the debate have yet to speak to a question. So, okay, yeah, so I think, yes, so I think, Cliff, if we change it to also unstrike the first strikeout so that it says, a person speaking to a motion may not immediately offer a motion to close debate, the motion for the previous question, also known as blah, 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 shall not be in order when either or both sides of the debate have yet to speak to a question. Are you good with that phrasing for your amendment? Okay, yes. Okay, so the amendment is, I'm going to state this once, well, first, is there a second? Okay, I do see seconds. Okay, so it has been moved and seconded to amend C.1 to, I'm just going to state what it would read rather than saying striking the striking, so that it would read, a person speaking to a motion may not immediately offer a motion to close debate. The motion for the previous question, also known as the motion close debate, call the question and vote now, shall not be in order when either of both sides of the debate have yet to speak to a question. And then it continues. So the amendment is specifically to restore the to close debate, period, the motion, and then shall not be in order, and then when either or both sides of the debate have yet to speak to a question. Okay. So that has been moved and seconded. We have set a debate time of 4 minutes for this. So is there any objection to having debate time for this motion, or sorry, for this amendment be a total of 2 minutes, 1 minute for each side, to not be taken out of time for the original motion? Is there any objection? Okay, seeing none, debate time for this amendment is set at 2 minutes. I do have a point of order that the amended text is identical to what it is before there were any changes. That is not correct. The amended text still leaves the striking of when there is less than 1 minute of debate time remaining. Okay. So, Clifton, do you wish to speak to your amendment? If so, please raise the hand so we can unmute you. And then I will be recognizing Martin Pine for a speech against the amendment after that.
Great. Thank you, Mixed Chair. As I said before, I think ultimately ensuring that both the affirmative and negative side have a chance to engage in substantive debate is important. And so I don't see any harm in requiring that the motion to the previous question be held off. And while I realize that this can largely be worked around by saying the magic words, I think having the language in the text of our rules helps send a signal to the body that no, please let the affirmative and negative speak once before you go to shut things down. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to recognize Martin Pine for a speech against the amendment.
Thank you. Yeah, while I broadly agree with the substantive concerns, first of all, for a main motion, the first speech can't actually call the question without suspending the rules since they're already speaking to the motion. So it would have to, so either the first person called for speech against would move the previous question under this scenario. The other would, I think, be the only time where it would come up. The other one I would be concerned about is that we use question, and this is going to come up in C2, but question is very broad, and some questions are actually undebatable. So we don't want to be in a scenario where we can't call the question because the question is just because the question is undebatable. We want to move the previous question on a larger stack.
Okay, thank you. I have a question of privilege regarding the size of the text on the screen share. We are doing the best we can to make it visible and readable, but there's only so much we can do, and there's also only so much we can do like on the fly live. So we are doing the best we can. We have, I think, already done a couple things to make it a little bit better, but this is, I wish I could wave a magic wand and make it as perfect as possible, but we are doing the best we can to make the edits to the text as readable as possible. Okay, that was a speech against. I don't see any other speeches in favor, so I am going to recognize Kat Corbetti for a speech against the amendment.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. I really don't see how this amendment is an improvement on the original proposal, given that the original proposal intends to limit wasting time. Oh, we still have 30 seconds left, but if there's no one else wanting to speak in favor and everyone else wants to speak against, it's like let the body decide and make decisions faster. Saying that, oh, we still have time. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Apologies.
Thank you. Okay, so time against has elapsed. I don't see anybody else wishing to speak in favor, and so we will move to a vote. So the item that we are voting on is the amendment to C.1 to restore, to unstrike the text to close debate, period, the motion, and shall not be in order, and when either or both sides of the debate have yet to speak to a question. So the text of the amendment would read, or the text of the standing rule change would read, should this amendment pass, that a person speaking to a motion may not immediately offer a motion to close debate. The motion for the previous question, also known as the motion to close debate, call the question, and vote now, shall not be in order when either or both sides of the debate have yet to speak to a question before voting, etc. Okay, so we will now move to a vote on the done amendment to C.1 So we can go ahead and open that vote. Okay, we can go ahead and close the poll. Okay, with 23 in favor and 54 against, the amendment fails. And so we are back to C.1 as originally submitted. Okay, so we had the speech in favor, and then we had the amendment. So I do not have any, yes, and so we can go ahead and clear out the second order speaking pool for my moderators. I do not currently have any other speeches in favor or against or other motions relating to C.1. Okay, I do have a speech in favor from Kayla Allen, so I will recognize Kayla Allen.
There are 15 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. I appreciate the attempt to shorten the meeting by this rule, but it has in practice for many years taken more time to resolve than the amount of time it was perceived to save. I'm in favor of this motion.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech in favor. Okay, seeing nobody else wishing to speak, we will move to a vote. So we are voting on the adoption of C.1. So we can go ahead and open the vote on C.1. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 76 in favor and 6 against, the motion passes and C.1 is adopted. Per our rules, standing rule changes take effect at the end of, essentially at next year's meeting, although we can vote to put them into immediate effect. Martin, do you wish to offer such a motion?
So moved.
Okay, so it has been moved to suspend the rules to put C.1 into immediate effect, and it has been seconded. This motion is neither debatable nor amendable and will require a 2/3 vote. And so we will immediately move to a vote on putting C.1 into immediate effect. And I will give Adam a second, but once he's ready, we can open the vote on putting C.1 into immediate effect. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 79 in favor and 3 against, that is a 2/3 majority, and so C.1 is put into immediate effect. Okay, the next item on our agenda is C.2, which also comes from the Nitpicking and Fly Specking Committee. Debate time on this item was set at 2 minutes, and I will recognize Martin Pine for a speech in favor of C.2.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. This just brings the rules in conformance to essentially what we've already been doing. Technically speaking, question refers to any motion that we're talking about whatsoever, and we don't actually require substantive debate on all questions because there's a standing rule directly above this one where we have undebatable, where that provides what for when amendments can be just undebatable. So we should just call this debate on the main motion. That's already what we do. The rule should say that.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech in favor of C.2. I do not see anybody else wishing to speak to C.2. I'm going to give you just a little bit more time to see if there's somebody who wishes to speak. Okay, not seeing anybody wishing to speak to C.2. We will move to a vote on the adoption of C.2. So we can go ahead and open that vote. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote with 76 in favor and 1 against. C.2 is adopted. And I will just also remind folks that I can see the vote results as they come in. And so that's why I'm closing some of these quite quickly, because when the total number of votes already in favor is such that even if every single person voted, it would still pass. I'm not holding it open for longer. Martin, do you are you making a motion to put C.2 into immediate effect?
So move.
Okay, is there a second? There is a second. Okay, we're going to see if we can handle this without a vote. Is there any objection to putting C.2 into immediate effect? If so, please raise the hand in Zoom. Okay, seeing no objections, C.2 is also passed and put into immediate effect. Okay, the next item in front of us is C.3, business meeting dislocation. Debate time on this item has been set at 6 minutes. Can be found, I've been meaning to say this, sorry, on page 16 of your agenda. And Kat, are you going to be making the speech in favor, or, oh no, is it Mara or Adam? Whoever is planning on making this first speech in favor of C.2. Okay, I will recognize Adam for a speech in favor of C.3. I think I just said C.2. I mean C.3, sorry.
All right, can you hear me? Yes, yep. Okay. Yes, so thank you, Mixed Chair. This rules change and the associated constitutional change, which I believe is F.2, are intended to clean up language in our rules that could be read to cast doubt on the legitimacy of virtual meetings and avoid the need for each virtual business meeting to explicitly need to make a ruling on that count, as happened last year. None of the edits here can be taken to require can be taken to require virtual meetings. It merely allows each Worldcon to decide what mode fits them best. So the changes here are for the most part not substantive. They are prepositional changes. And so I hope that if you want to continue to see virtual meetings with a minimum of drama, you will vote in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech in favor of C.3. I don't currently see anyone wishing to speak in favor or against. I do have a request. Wow. Words, they're hard sometimes. I do have a question of privilege, asking me to clarify when a vote requires more than a simple majority. I will do so. My apologies if I failed to do so on the 2/3 vote on C.1. I believe I said that, but I could have imagined that. But it is generally my intention to clarify when a vote requires more than a simple majority. I still don't see anybody else wishing to speak to C.3. I'm going to give you all just a couple more seconds to see if there's anything, but I don't think there is. Okay. Yep. Seeing nobody else wishing to speak, we will go ahead and move to a vote on whether to adopt C.3. And so we can go ahead and open that vote. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 82 in favor and 4 against, C.3 passes. It is my thinking that there is no real point to put this into immediate effect this year. But Adam, if you wish to do so, please raise the hand in Zoom and we can certainly still take that up. Okay, seeing no hand raise in Zoom, we will not bother with putting this into immediate effect. Okay, so that moves us on to resolutions, which we need to set debate time for. The slide share is very helpful for me too, because sometimes things like the debate times pop up on the screen. I remember that we haven't done that yet. So it's a good reminder for me. Okay. The resolutions can be found beginning on page 17 of your agenda, and I am proposing the following debate times. 4 minutes for D.1, clarifying Hugo authority delegation. For D.2, WSFS Code of Ethics, 10 minutes. For D.3, whistleblower policy, 10 minutes. For D.4, interim ombuds office, 6 minutes. And for D.5, bidding trust and safety, 10 minutes. Is there any objection to setting these debate times? If so, you can raise the hand in Zoom. Okay, seeing none, the debate times are set as proposed. So our next item is D.1, clarifying Hugo Award authority delegation. We set debate time for that at 4 minutes. This can be found on page 17 of your agenda. There is no way that all of that text is getting on the slide share at once, y'all. Just fair warning. But you all can access the agenda. If you need to look at the text specifically, you can do so. But yeah, it's more than 2 pages in the agenda. It's certainly not going to fit on one slide share. And so I will recognize Martin Pine for a speech in favor of D.1.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. So there used to be a ruling that was CH 2015-04 saying that we couldn't refer to the Hugo subcommittee because the delegation was optional. Last year, we passed a constitutional amendment saying that the delegation of all the Hugo Award stuff is now mandatory. So what this resolution does is it directs the secretary under their constitutional authority to make non-substantive corrections without having to go through the 2-year amendment process to just fix all of the references to the Worldcon committee in Article 3 to say that it's the Hugo Award subcommittee because we changed the language because we passed a constitutional amendment saying it now has to be the Hugo Award subcommittee. It can't just be the Worldcon committee as a whole. The nitpicking and flyspeccing committee is aware that this might actually be a little overbroad, but because of how the way the Constitution is worded right now, it does actually say all authority in Article 3 is delegated. The nitpicking and flyspeccing committee has on its list to look at next year. Maybe we should let's kind of restructure Article 3 to be a little more consistent with maybe not over delegate if that's unnecessary, but that would require substantive constitutional amendments. So we'd be bringing that back next year.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to clarify something that Martin said. In our standing rules, section 4.3 basically gives the secretary of the business meeting the power to make changes to the Constitution to bring it into line with newly passed amendments. So this is something that the secretary already has the authority to do, but given the number of changes, it's just making sure that sort of we're all clear on that and providing clear direction on that. I do have a parliamentary inquiry about if there is a requirement from Perry and Larry about if there is a requirement for Worldcon committees to have a Hugo Award subcommittee. And the answer is that as of the close of last year's Worldcon, there is. We ratified that amendment at last year's business meeting. And so it is now a requirement in our Constitution that there is a Hugo Awards subcommittee. That authority of the administration of the Hugo Awards is delegated to. I'm going to recognize Laura Miller for a speech against D.1.
Yes, I just wanted to note that I think maybe we need to look at this a little closer because for one thing, one of the things that is amended in this resolution is the decision about the Hugo base being sent to the Hugo subcommittee, which is something that more than just that committee takes care of. And then also I note that in once the business passed on that we have, when we discussed clarifying Hugo Award administrator's discretion, there was discussion about whether that amendment should say Worldcon committee or it should say Hugo subcommittee. And it was decided at last year's meeting that we should leave it Worldcon committee to be more broad because the Hugo subcommittee is included in the Worldcon committee. So I think that maybe we do need to actually wait on this. And when the nitpicking and flyspecking committee can go through everything and see where we really want to make this, we can look at it next year. So for now, I think that we should maybe hold off on this. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a speech against. Okay, I have a request for a speaker pool report, which I will take because it does look like while the speaker pool view on the slide share was working when we were in the second order amendment, it is not accurate right now. So we will definitely investigate that after today's meeting and figure out what's going on. I'm not sure exactly why that's happening, but currently we have a speech in the speaker pool. We have one speech in favor of D.1, no speeches against. And we have 4 different people wishing to make amendments to exclude the section 3.5 amendment from this amendment. So to basically strike the change to section 3.5 from what we are instructing the secretary, and now we have 5 people wishing to make that amendment from this. So that is the speaker pool report, and that was Chris Rose that made that request for the speaker pool report. I'm going to recognize Tammy Coxon for an amendment, and you get no points for guessing what that amendment is going to be in advance.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, the Hugo base is often decided by a much larger group of people, including the chair, and I would not want to do anything in the Constitution that would remove that flexibility from the committee. And so I would just like to do the thing that you just said we were going to do, is to strike the changes in 3.5.
Okay, thank you. So that is a motion to amend D.1 by striking the paragraph beginning with section 3.5, name and design. I see several seconds, and so it has been moved and seconded. I'm going to suggest that we set debate time on this item to be a total of 2 minutes. Well, actually, here's what I'm going to do first. Is there any objection to moving to an immediate vote on this amendment? If so, please raise the hand. Okay, seeing none, we are going to immediately move to a vote on this amendment, except that first I'm going to ask, is there any objection to immediately adopting this amendment without a vote? If there is such an objection, please raise the hand. So if you want to make sure we have an actual vote on this, you would need to object and raise the hand. Okay. Seeing none, the amendment passes and the instructions regarding section 3.5 are stricken from D.1. And so we are back to D.1 as now amended. We have had a speech in favor and a speech against. I'm going to recognize Ron Oakes for a speech in favor.
Yes, I would like to point out that delaying the this clarification for another year could result in some potential confusion. Not that I expect the Montreal committee to be confused, but let's go ahead and get this clarified now, not delay another year just because the nitpicking fly-specking committee is planning on going and maybe making some more clarification to one section.
That is time.
This all.
Okay, thank you. So that is time in favor of D.1 has elapsed. I don't have anybody else wishing to speak against or make any other motions about D.1 in the speaker pool. I'm going to give you all just a little bit more time to see if there is somebody who wants to speak. Okay. Seeing none, we will go ahead and move to a vote. And so if we can go ahead and open the vote on the adoption of D.1. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 78 in favor and 1 against, D.1 passes. Okay, so that brings us to D.2, WSFS Code of Ethics. So debate time on this item has been set at 10 minutes. And so I believe Alan Bond will once again be the one giving the first speech on this item. And so I will recognize Alan Bond for a speech in favor, or if somebody else from the committee pops their hand up, I will recognize them.
Hello, thank you, Mixed Chair. So the Code of Ethics, as it is laid out, is directly related to the business meeting, the site selection, and Hugo administration as the purview of WSFS, and is laid out to basically prevent breaches of ethics. It is in the minutes, so I'm not sure how much detail I should go into, but I speak, and the committee strongly believes that we should adopt this Code of Ethics.
Okay, thank you. That is a speech in favor of D.2, the WSFS Code of Ethics. If there's anybody else wishing to speak, please submit a request to do so. I do not have anybody yet currently wishing to speak, which means I'm doing a great job of predicting debate times, which means, by which, to be clear, I mean I'm not. Okay, I am not seeing anybody else wishing to speak to D.2. So we will go ahead and move to a vote, and we can open the vote. Oh, actually, one moment, please close the vote. I have a high priority item if it was already opened. So I have a parliamentary inquiry from Chris Rose about if you're asking for a clarification from the proposer how to do so. So that would be a request for information, but I will go ahead and recognize you, Chris Rose, for a request for information. You don't have to resubmit another one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question for the proposers is, I would like to understand to whom this Code of Ethics applies. We're all members of WSFS, and it's not clear to me what the boundaries of this Code of Ethics are in terms of their application to the members of WSFS versus the members of Worldcon committees.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask Alan Bond to answer that for what the intention of the proposers were.
The intentions of this is to apply to WSFS volunteers in the conduct of WSFS business,
Okay,
as outlined in the Constitution.
Okay.
And Alana has done a good job of highlighting that in the text. It is intended to guide the actions of people actively undertaking or supporting the business of WSFS, as outlined in the Constitution.
Okay. So yeah, the answer to the request for information is that section that says it is intended to guide the actions of people actively undertaking or supporting the business of WSFS as outlined in the Constitution. Requests for information are directed to the chair, and I asked Alan to answer. I'm going to sort of provide an additional answer as the chair, which is that this language is worded such that this Code of Ethics applies to people based on not their membership status in the current Worldcon, not whether they are a current WSFS member, but whether they are in a role that actively undertakes or supports the business of WSFS as outlined in the Constitution. So it is written in such a way that that is the determining factor on whether or not this code of ethics applies. If there's anybody else wishing to speak to this, they can submit a request to do so, but I don't have any. I'm going to once again just give you a little bit more time to see if there is anybody else wishing to speak to this. Okay, seeing none, we can go ahead and move to a vote. And so we can open the vote on the adoption of D.2. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 77 in favor and 8 against, D.2 is adopted. And so we will move to D.3, whistleblower policy, which starts on page 23 of the agenda and is also proposed by the Sparkle Unicorn Committee. And so I will recognize Alan Bond. Oh, yeah, debate time on this item was also set at 10 minutes. And so I will go ahead and recognize Alan Bond for the first speech in favor.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. This resolution to adopt the whistleblower policy is intended to provide a mechanism for folks to report things that they believe are being conducted in contravention of the Code of Ethics. That was D.2. To report things, you need a body to report them to, and that is why our whistleblower policy is to create an ombuds office comprising of 3 individuals appointed as an advisory board to the MPC to be selected through an application process, hopefully to be administered by the MPC. I believe that is a constitutional amendment that comes up later.
Okay. Thank you. That is a speech in favor. Waiting to see if we have anybody else. Okay, so we have a couple of things that have come in as question for committees, which isn't really, I've now removed that specific speaking tag. So I'm going to take these as requests for information. So first we have a request for information from Kayla Allen, which is if the meeting wants to ask the MPC to include this code of ethics on the WSFS rules page at wsfs.org. So my answer to that request for information would be if the business meeting wishes to do so, somebody can amend, well, we've already done the code of ethics. So somebody could submit a proposal to do so. And we can request that. We are generally not allowed to instruct the MPC, but we can request that. Or we can just trust that members of the MPC are here and that if we want to do that, that the MPC can choose to do that if they so choose. But it would require a motion to specifically have the meeting itself request that of the MPC. We have another request for information from Perry Ann Lurie about where the members of the Ombuds office are supposed to come from. And so the answer to that, I believe, is in the once we no longer have the interim option, but the actual like constitutional body that is referenced in the Ombuds amendment, which is F.1, it specifies that the Ethics Ombuds Office shall consist of 3 members appointed by the MPC in accordance with such application process as the business meeting may from time to time determine. And I don't, and then within the whistleblower, sorry, these documents sort of refer to themselves. So then the business meeting determining from time to time is currently set out within the whistleblower policy of that it is appointed as an advisory board to the MPC, and that should happen via an application process focused on identifying sort of relevant experience. So this is the process outlined currently is one where the it's not like an election. People are appointed by the MBC, and if the business meeting wishes to add more specifics to that process, they can do so at a later time. And Alan, I'm going to ask you to, you're nodding. I'm correct? Okay, yes, Alan is nodding and putting a thumbs up. And so that is also what the intention of the proposers were when they were writing that. So that is where the members will come from. I have a parliamentary inquiry from Gareth Kavanagh of what would happen if the constitutional amendment that sets up the Ombuds Office fails. So we've already adopted the Code of Ethics, so that Code of Ethics applies regardless, unless we choose to pass a resolution basically undoing that. Should the whistleblower policy also pass without the constitutional amendment passing, essentially you can sort of see it in the interim Ombuds Office resolution, which is that until we have a actual piece in the Constitution requiring a certain process, the phase we are in is one where the business meeting is sort of requesting / suggesting to the MPC that this thing exists, but it is in the purview of the MPC to decide whether it does. So if the constitutional amendment for the creation of the Ombuds Office fails, then we would have these resolutions basically essentially requesting the MPC to do a thing, but it would be up to the Mark Protection Committee to decide whether or not they comply with that and whether or not they have such an office and appoint people to it. Gareth, if that does not sufficiently answer your question, please raise the hand so that I can recognize you for what you are additionally wanting to get clarified. I'm also going to ask the timekeeper, because we've had several clarifying items come up. Any time that took out of speeches in favor and against the motion, let's go ahead and not, I want to make sure there's still time to actually deal with the motion. So let's have let those parliamentary items sort of not come out of debate on this. Okay, I do have speech against, and so I'm going to recognize Perry Ann Lurie for a speech against D.3, and then I am going to recognize Ron Oakes for an amendment. I am not hearing you, Perry Ann. No, I cannot. Okay, I'm going to move to Ron Oakes. Or Perry Ann, I think I might have just heard something. Can you try again? Nope. Okay, it was something else. Sorry. I'm going to recognize Ron Oakes for an amendment.
Okay. Ron Oakes, see him. I move that the the business meeting requests that the Mark Protection Committee or appropriate subcommittees thereof post the code of ethics on appropriate websites, and should the whistleblower policy also pass, that they also post it as well.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to rule is that's because we already handled the code of ethics, and this is specifically on the whistleblower policy. So I don't think this would get complicated, but just in case it does, so that we don't do the thing where we sort of realize partway through we've gotten ourselves in a parliamentary snarl, I'm going to rule that out of order at the current moment and say that such an amendment would be in order when we get to D.4, the interim ombuds office, because then we are in the space of requesting that the MPC do a thing regarding the code of ethics and whistleblower policy. And so that would be the time when an amendment to ask the MPC to publish that on the website would be in order. Okay. So coming back to the whistleblower policy. So there is a request for information from JOS V, which is why are no term limits determined for the Ombuds office? I would say that's really generally speaking debate, but since we don't have anybody else wishing to speak, that's fine. And I will, Alan, if you wish to speak to the committee's intentions regarding that, I will recognize you. So yeah, I'll recognize Alan Bond.
Thanks, Mixed Chair. Alan Bond, the reason for the term limits is due to the fact that we would like to have it reaffirmed that people should be on that ombudsman's committee as the MPC changes, and to have the MPC still engaged in making sure that the people on the ombudsman's committee are the appropriate people.
Okay, thank you. Okay. My understanding is that, so Perry Ann has posted something in Discord about what she wanted to say. Is there, because we don't have very many folks wishing to speak on this, is there any objection to me reading what Perry Ann wished to say briefly? If so, please raise the hand. This is not something I'll generally be doing when we have a lot of debate happening, but when we don't have a ton of requests to speak. Okay, seeing no objection. So my understanding is that Perry Ann's intention was to say that it may be difficult to find members for the Ombuds Committee without conflicts of interest. Okay, and of course, now that I've said we don't have a ton of requests to speak, we're getting several more in. Okay, I'm going to recognize Farah for a speech in favor of D.3. So Farah, if you can go ahead and raise the hand in Zoom so we can recognize you and get you unmuted. Okay.
Am I audible?
Yep, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, so my speech in favor is simply that we put together a whistleblower policy, because whistleblower policies have become best practice within large institutions, and that we based this policy on quite a large number of whistleblower policies that we consulted from different countries as well as from different types of organizations. That's everything.
Okay, thank you. I have a request for information from Cliff Dunn about the process for filling midterm vacancies. Given that the process for appointing people into these positions in the first place is appointment by the MPC, it would be the same process for filling midterm vacancies, since there's no specific election process outlined. Okay, if there's anybody else wishing to speak to D.3, okay, I do have a parliamentary inquiry, so I'm going to recognize Todd Dashoff for either a parliamentary inquiry or request for information on D.3.
Okay, can I be heard?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, I just have a question for the makers of this amendment. The way the membership is structured, it says that you cannot be a division head, etc., of a sitting Worldcon. What will happen if somebody is nominated for a term? Does that preclude them from then working on a committee in the next X years of their term?
So I'll go ahead and let Alan answer that.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. The answer is that it would be expected at that time for that member to resign from the committee and be replaced by appointment by the MPC for someone to continue the duration of their term.
Or presumably they could choose to stay on the committee and not be a division head. It would be a personal choice of the member. Okay. Don't have any other requests to speak regarding D.3. I'm going to give you all a little bit more time to see if there's anybody else wishing to speak on D.3. Okay, I don't see anybody else wishing to speak on D.3, so we will go ahead and move to a vote. And so we can open the vote on the adoption of D.3. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 80 in favor and 12 against, D.3 is adopted. Okay, that brings us to D.4, which is on page 25 of the agenda, Interim Ombuds Office. Debate time on this item was set at 6 minutes. And I will recognize Alan Bond again for the first speech in favor for D.4.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. As was pointed out in the discussion of D.3, D.4 establishes a request to the MPC to constitute an Ombuds Office prior to the constitutional amendment being ratified. And we believe that with the adoption of D.2 and D.3, we should request that of the MPC. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to recognize Ron Oakes for an amendment to D.4.
Yes, I would, Ron Oakes, see him. I would move that we amend this to also include that the business meeting requests that the Mark Protection Committee or subcommittees thereof post the text of the Code of Ethics and the whistleblower policy as passed in D.2 and D.3 on appropriate websites.
Okay. Hold on. So what you are amending is to add, therefore be it further resolved, rather, that the business meeting requests that the MPC, I believe, or subcommittees thereof, not that that super matters, but or subcommittees thereof post the Code of Ethics and whistleblower policies as adopted in D.2 and D.3 on the appropriate websites. Is that
that is correct?
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, I do see. Yes, okay. I do see a second and multiple now in the Zoom. Okay, so the item in front of us, the motion in front of us is the amendment to D.4 to add, be it further resolved, that the business meeting also requests that the MPC, we should probably specify Mark Protection Committee, or subcommittees thereof post the Code of Ethics and whistleblower policies as adopted in D.2 and D.3 on the appropriate websites. So I'm going to ask the body, is there any objection to immediately adopting this amendment to D.4? If so, please raise the hand if there's an objection. I do see an objection. Okay. I'm going to recommend a debate time of a total of 2 minutes for this amendment. Oh no, sorry, amendments are immediately set at 5 minutes. Is only because the other one had a total debate time of less than that. Okay, so debate time on this item is just flat out immediately set at 5 minutes. Ron, do you wish to speak further to your amendment, or do you think it stands as is? But okay, I'll go ahead and recognize Ron Oakes.
Yeah, it mostly stands as is. I think that if we've got these policies, they need to be posted. And the WSFS.org, Worldcon.org, et cetera, are where they need to be posted.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to, okay, so we have a point of order from Perry Ann Lurie that the amendment to D.4 is not germane to D.4. I'm going to rule that it is germane because the purpose of D.4 is to request of the MPC specific actions related to the Code of Ethics and whistleblower policy in general. And so the instruction about publishing the text, or sorry, not the instruction, the request around publishing the text of D.2 and D.3, the Code of Ethics and whistleblower policies, making that request to the MPC as well, is germane to D.4. And so I'm going to say that the point of order is not well taken and that the amendment is in order. Perry Ann, if you wish to appeal the ruling of the chair, you can go ahead and raise the hand. Okay, not seeing that, I'm going to recognize Rafe Richards for a speech against this amendment to D.4.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. I trust everyone can hear me. Rafe Richards,
Yep.
he, him. Briefly speaking, if the MPC thinks that it is a good idea to post these policies on their website, they're quite capable of doing so without us asking them. If they think it's a bad idea, they're not going to do it regardless, because we cannot bind them. This amendment is fundamentally futile.
Okay, thank you. That's a speech in favor of the amendment to D.3, or D.4 rather, my apologies. I'm going to recognize Kayla Allen for a speech in favor of the amendment to D.4. And then I'm going to recognize Kat Corbetti after that if we don't have another speech against that comes through.
Next chair, I should begin by saying that as a member of the marketing subcommittee of the WSFS Mark Protection Committee, I actually am the person who does most of the editing, not all of it. Other people have the keys. In my opinion, even if you didn't like D3 or D2, it's rather important that it be publicized to the members in the same forum as the other rules of WSFS, such as the Constitution and the standing rules. And so I'm in favor of the amendment to D.4.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech in favor of the amendment to D.4. And so I'm going to recognize, Kat Corbetti for another speech in favor of the amendment to D.4.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. When I put my request in, it was because I'd seen a comment made by Kayla Allen elseweb about being the person to update, and that she said that it would be preferable to have an instruction or at least a request rather than just her making the unilateral decision to post these documents. So I'm in favor of this amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech in favor of the amendment. Okay, so I have a parliamentary inquiry that there's a typo in the amendment. Yes, it's further, not further. That is a secretarial, typographical change that the secretary can just make. That's fine. Okay, I don't have anybody else wishing to speak on D.4. I'm going to give you all just a little, the amendment to D.4. Oh, sorry, I do have a couple more that snuck in. Okay, I'm going to recognize, can I get a time check actually quick from Olav on how much time we have remaining for the amendment?
We have 2 minutes and 10 seconds remaining in debate of this amendment.
Okay, how much of that is for speeches in favor?
We have 1 minute and 30 seconds in favor.
Okay,
remaining.
Thank you. Okay, and I have another instruction that it should say code of ethics instead of just code ethics. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to recognize John Coxon for a speech in favor, and then I will recognize Bree Reeves for another speech in favor if I don't have another speech against.
Hello, I'm John Coxon, he, him. I think that the previous member was right that we can't bind the MPC, but I do think that it is useful for us to express the community's wishes to the MPC, and then the MPC can ignore it or not. But I think it's still a useful thing to do.
Thank you. That was a speech in favor of the amendment to D.4. So I'm going to recognize Bree Reeves for another speech in favor, since we don't have anybody else wishing to speak against. So Bree, if you can raise the hand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Fantastic. I am in favor of this because not only is it, I think, important for us to tell the mark protection community how the community feels, but I think it's important for the community to have a clear stance that if we're going to have these policies, that we really do support them and we think that they're prioritized and important, especially in the wake of the last couple of years. And especially because it sounds like there won't be a huge problem putting it on the websites either way.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we do have a motion to end debate on the amendment. However, I don't see anybody else wishing to speak. And so we will go ahead and move to a vote on the amendment to D.4. So what we are voting on is the adoption of the amendment to D.4, which would add the text, be it further resolved that the business meeting also requests that the Mark Protection Committee or subcommittees thereof post the Code of Ethics and whistleblower policies as adopted in D.2 and D.3 on the appropriate websites. And so we can go ahead and open the vote on the adoption of the amendment to D.4. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 91 in favor and 6 against, the amendment to D.4 passes. So we are back to D.4 as amended. I have a request to speak, but it says that it's related to D.5. Alan Fleming, if you are intending to speak to D.4, go ahead and raise the hand and I will recognize you. But if you are meaning to speak on D.5, we'll get to that later. Okay, since I'm not seeing Alan raise the hand in Zoom, I'm going to assume that means that really was meant for D.5. Just for my own sake and sanity, I do ask that we try to keep the request to speak relevant to the current item before us. Okay, I don't see anybody else wishing to speak to D.4. I'm going to give you all just a couple more seconds to see if there was anybody else in the process of submitting a request to speak. Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and move to a vote. So we are voting on the adoption of D.4 as amended, and we can go ahead and open the vote. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 87 in favor and 7 against, D.4 is adopted. Okay, so we are now going to move to D.5, bidding trust and safety, which is on page 25 of your agenda. Debate time on this item was set at 10 minutes. If Brandon O'Brien is here and can raise the hand, I will recognize Brandon O'Brien for the first speech in favor of D.5.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brandon O'Brien, he, they. To be brief, as of the events of the last few years, the community agrees that there is an increased need to ensure both the safety of Worldcon attendees and the dignity of the convention. There's just been disagreement about the tools to use to grant that need. This resolution argues that it is more important to judge individual bids by internal, self-determined metrics to assess whether any bids committee is aware and candid about potential safety concerns and proactive about how they plan to respond. The resolution suggests we form a body simply to discuss how that may be undertaken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech in favor. I'm going to recognize Alan Fleming for a speech against D.5. And then I will recognize Kat Corbetti for a speech in favor of D.5.
There we go, I'm unmuted now. Yeah, thank you very much. I am very aware that the discussion about which countries are safe to hold Worldcons in has been going for some time. The problem that I have with this motion is that the safety statement does not require any truth in it at all. We can obligate Worldcons to provide this. It could be entirely fictitious. It would be no help at all to the to allow people to discuss whether any particular country was safe or not. It's a talking shop. It's going to be a suck on volunteer time. I know this is a difficult concept. I don't think this is the right way to approach it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech against D.5. I'm going to recognize Kat Corbetti for a speech in favor, and then I will recognize Perry-Ann Lurie for a speech against after that.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. Kat Corbetti, she, her. Not to relitigate the proposals that D.5 makes mention of in the discussion portion, but it is substantially difficult to establish objective standards because there are none. To the point of things being truthful, it still does, it would behoove the body to place trust in bids and to place trust in the community itself to be able to establish those internal standards. Crucially, it doesn't make it so that you have to do a particular thing or abide by a particular metric, precisely because metrics, even objective ones, are biased. And it would be best to leave the biases of the community to dictate whether or not we think a place is safe enough to hold a Worldcon. And so I am in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that was a speech in favor. I'm going to recognize Perry-Ann Lurie for a speech against, and then I will recognize Tammy Coxon for a speech in favor after that. Okay, it looks like Perry-Ann is still having microphone issues. So I'm going to recognize Cliff Dunn for a speech against.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. I have two concerns that come to mind. The first is that when I look at discussions of things like local transportation access, are we going to end up, this seems to open up the door to censure a convention because the local light rail goes on strike or a bus route gets cut. The other concern I have is that, and I'm going to be rather cynical here, if a committee that is based anywhere but the US or Europe or Australia, New Zealand, falls foul of this, all that seems likely to result is a firestorm with accusations of first world supremacy or otherwise. And, on top of that, nothing is, to the point of factuality. A bid for North Korea could say, we have perfect free speech. There's nothing wrong and nothing to mitigate. And while I suspect a lot of us would be laughing in our coffee as we read that, that would be sufficient, and there would be no grounds for recourse if they said there was no plan and no problem.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech against. I'm going to recognize Tammy Coxon for a speech in favor, and then Kayla Allen for a speech against.
This is Tammy Coxon. This is merely a proposal to create a committee. We don't need to argue the substantive, how this would be enacted, what it would mean. That would be the role of the committee. Is this something that's feasible to do? Will it generate results that we care about? refer this to committee, let them have those conversations and address those answers. If you feel passionate about what should or shouldn't be included, join the committee.
Okay, thank you. That is a speech in favor. I'm going to recognize Kayla Allen for a speech against, and then Farah for a speech in favor.
Thank you, Mixed Chair. While I do appreciate the attempts, the sentiment of the people making this motion, I think fundamentally, if we are going to continue to use a popular vote mechanism for selecting our future sites, we really have got to just let a political process, which is what it is, play out, and to allow the members to exercise their own individual judgment. And therefore, I don't see any purpose in doing this. Thank you.
Okay, that was a speech against. I'm going to recognize Farah for a speech in favor. And then I will recognize RKOV for a speech against. Really quickly before you start, Farah, can we get a time check, Olav?
Yes, we have a total of 5 minutes and 40 seconds remaining overall, with 3 remaining for speeches in favor and 2 minutes and 40 seconds remaining for speeches against.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Farah for a speech in favor.
The way I understand this proposal is it's to allow members to be informed before they vote. It's a process of informed consent. And one example I would give, I think it was a Spokane Worldcon, where one section of our community came forward with safety concerns related to that section that they felt were being dismissed, and that they wanted to know not whether the convention could fix it, it obviously couldn't, but what the convention was going to do to support them. And that's where I'm coming from in voting for this, that this is about informed consent. It's not about deciding that specific areas should not be allowed to compete.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech in favor. And then I'm going to recognize RKOV for a speech against.
Okay, thank you, Mixed Chair. Rick Kowalczyk, he, him. We have enough committees already. We have a lack of volunteer time, and this is committees, in my opinion, is a waste. There's a ready way for people to figure this out by asking the bids during the many times that the bids are asked questions of in various meetings or by email. I think this is a gigantic waste, and we should not do this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was a speech against. I'm going to recognize Bree Reeves for a parliamentary inquiry or request for information. And then after that, I'm going to recognize Olav Rockney for a speech in favor. Bree?
Yes, I have just kind of 2 questions for folks who are proposing this. The first is how are you planning on quantifying kind of social dangers? For instance, there are plenty of examples where policy prohibits certain behaviors, but we know that those risks are very true. I'm thinking of things like racial safety, even here in the United States, where we know that there are explicit laws against certain things. And there are also places where I would not suggest some people go. And then also how you plan to keep this from seeming like a Worldcon's endorsement of a bid.
Okay. So requests for information are directed to the chair. And so I'm going to go ahead and answer that, which is that, so this proposal is purely to create a committee to discuss obligating Worldcon bids to write a safety statement. It doesn't make any directions or claims about what that safety statement, I mean, it says what the committee should discuss that the safety statement says, right? But it doesn't have, it is not proposing the actual process or instructions of what that safety statement should say. So the questions that you're asking about how specific things would be handled would really be directed to, should this resolution pass, to the report of that committee, or to that committee next year following their report, and any proposals that they bring forward. The current resolution D.5 is not really addressing those specific questions that you have. That would be the work of the committee that those questions would need to be directed to. Okay, I am going to recognize Olav Rockney for a speech in favor, and then I'm going to recognize Joe Van for another speech in favor if we don't have another speech against before then.
Thank you, mixed chairperson. Olav Rockney, pronouns he, him. The point I'd like to make is that we have seen what happens when actors with ill intention try to subvert the democratic processes of WSFS. And I am, of course, referring to the sad puppies. The site selection process is currently more vulnerable than our Hugo process, and the consequences of malevolent actors having their way is greater, because if the Hugo Awards go to the wrong person, or if the shortlist has a bunch of unacceptable finalists, it's just an award. We're talking about the safety of the convention. We're talking about the accessibility of the convention. And so I think having a committee like this to look at ways to shore up this process is actually a good thing in terms of getting ahead of the next sad puppies, the next malevolent actors trying to subvert Worldcon and its processes, because there are people like that out there, and we need to be prepared. And I have just run out of time in favor.
Okay, so we are now out of time in favor. I'm going to recognize Perry Ann for a speech against. We think we might have gotten the audio issues fixed.
Am I unmuted?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. Hey, Perry Ann Lurie, she, her. I don't think this committee can come up with a solution. I don't think there is a solution this way. Voters should be asking these questions, and if we ask them to put this in writing, they may get in trouble with their government for putting things like that in writing. So I don't think this is a good idea.
Okay, thank you. That was a speech against. Time for speeches in favor, as Olav said, has elapsed. I don't have anybody else wishing to speak against or make any other motions. Okay, I do have, now I will recognize, and Olav, how much time do we have remaining for speeches against at this point?
1 minute and 5 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to recognize Cliff Dunn for a speech. Oh, no, it looks like Cliff is now, has retracted his request, it looks like. So never mind. I'm not going to recognize Cliff Dunn. Okay. I'm going to give y'all just a couple seconds to see if there's, or a few seconds to see if there's anybody else wishing to speak against or make a motion. Okay, seeing none, we will move to a vote. So we are voting on the adoption of D.5. So we can go ahead and open the vote on the adoption of D.5. I'm going to hold this vote open a little longer. meaning a little longer than I have been doing, rather than a little longer from when I just said that, although I guess both things are true. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. With 62 in favor and 34 against, D.5 is adopted. And so D.5 creates a committee with a chair to be appointed by me. So per our standing rule something that we created last year, 7.6.1. Brandon and Olaf, as the two proposers of the original item, are automatically appointed to the committee unless they don't wish to do so. I'm going to ask anybody else who wishes to serve on the committee to please email bm-committee@LAcon.org. If you can please email bm-committee@LAcon.org by, let's say, 24 hours prior to the next meeting. If you wish to serve on the committee, and please also specify if you are willing to chair said committee in that email. And I will announce the committee. I am being informed that bm-committee is not a real email. I don't think that's true. I asked it to be. Let me check my Google groups. Let me. Oh, apparently that one didn't get created. Okay. Then yes, I guess we will use bm-candidate@lacon.org. My apologies. I thought I had asked for the creation of that email as well. So yeah, you will email bmcandidate@lacon.org if you wish to serve on the committee, and please specify if you are willing to chair that committee. And then at the next meeting, I will announce who all is on that committee, and, well, specifically the chair. We'll see how many folks. So the text of the motion doesn't specify a specific size for the committee. So we will see how many requests come in to serve on it, and I will use that to inform whether I am specifying specific people to be on it, or if it's just anybody who wishes to serve on it. Okay, so that is D.5, and so I am now going to recognize Cliff Dunn to make a motion that he mentioned earlier.
Yay, working through the technical stuff. So, Mixed Chair, motion slash resolution that I wanted to tender is, if I can get my Lumi window to move off the top of the sorry, I literally have my Lumi window is popped out and blocking the text.
Okay, that's okay. I can read.
If you could read it, please, since I sent it in writing.
Yep, I can do that. Okay, so the motion that Cliff Dunn is making is, whereas the parent corporation of the 2015 Worldcon, Sasquan, has approximately $20,000 in outstanding funds from the 2015 Worldcon versus a surplus, and whereas that entity has an ongoing policy of granting scholarships for appropriate financial purposes, be it resolved that the 2015 Worldcon Committee is deemed to have sufficiently complied with the financial reporting requirements and be excused from future submissions, provided that they commit to following through with the scholarships in question to dispose of the remaining funds. So after conferring with my parliamentarian, it is my ruling that 2.9.4 of our Constitution regarding financial reports says that in the event of a surplus, the selected convention committee or any alternative organizational entity established to oversee and disperse that surplus shall file annual financial reports regarding the disbursement of that surplus at each year's business meeting until the surplus is totally expended or an amount equal to the original surplus has been dispersed. And so the understanding of the meaning of the word surplus is that they took more funds in than they spent, and therefore they still have funds available. And so essentially the function of this resolution would be suspending the rules and suspending 2.9.4 of our Constitution in regards to Sasquan. We cannot suspend the Constitution. And so I am ruling this motion out of order. Do you wish to appeal that ruling? You are muted. Sorry, if we can unmute Cliff. Okay, it looks like we might be having some technical issues. So I'm just going to, because I've talked to Cliff about this, if I'm wrong about anything I say, Cliff, feel free to raise the hand we'll figure it out and get it corrected. But so Cliff does not intend to appeal my ruling, but does want to ask the nitpicking and fly specking committee to look at this over the next year and basically see if they agree with that. So since I've already ruled it out of order, there is not a specific thing to refer to the nitpicking and fly specking committee. So this is not a motion to refer anything to the nitpicking and fly specking committee. This is the presiding officer saying out loud in the meeting at which several members of the nitpicking and fly specking committee are present that it might behoove us, because I'm also on that committee, to look at that over the next year. So it's just sort of a general FYI. Okay. So, having handled that, let me check my speaker pool to make sure nothing else has come in. Okay. Okay. So that gets us through resolutions. I am aware of another late item of business regarding an eligibility extension, regarding an item that was not made publicly available until earlier this month and therefore was not something that was on people's radar to submit an eligibility extension for earlier. And so I have said that I will allow that through. We will handle that at the next meeting so that we have time to sort of get that text prepared and, in front of you all rather than trying to do it right now on the fly, but that's just sort of a heads up. So we are going to go ahead and handle the setting of debate times for, that's a little blank looking. Alana, I edited, you may need to stop the slideshare, or sorry, the slideshow and restart it, because I did edit those slides to have the times on them. I can also read them out if we aren't able to get them on the screen. But we are going to handle the setting of debate times for business passed on and new constitutional changes. So I'm going to give Alana just a moment to see if we can get that up on the screen. And if not, like I said, I can just read them out, but I'm just going to give them a moment to see if they're able to do that. Yes, while we do that, I've had a request to restate some of the things I've said. So if you are wishing to serve on the D.5 committee, please email bm-candidate@lacon.org by 24 hours prior to the next meeting. And please indicate in that email if you are willing to chair said committee, because I will need a little bit of time to sort of review that. If you have been nominated for the Mark Protection Committee, please email bm-candidate@lacon.org with your consent or decline of the nomination. If you are accepting the nomination, you can also include a statement of no more than 300 words regarding why you wish to be elected that we will post in the Discord. Please do that by 3 hours prior to the start of the next session. And as a reminder, if you have nominated somebody for the Mark Protection Committee who is not present at today's meeting, it is your responsibility to let them know that they have been nominated and need to accept or decline their nomination. The information about who was nominated and the instructions around communicating the acceptance of the nomination or your interest in serving on the D.5 committee will also be included in the recap that we write up and publish about today's meeting. Okay, awesome. Yay, we got it on the screen. Okay, we're going to try to set these debate times in batches just based on how many things I can get on the screen at once. So for business passed on, these are items that were changes to the Constitution that were passed at the prior business meeting in Seattle. And per our Constitution, they have to be passed at 2 successive business meetings. So they were passed last year, and then they are up for ratification this year. And if they pass at this year's business meeting, they will become a part of the Constitution at the close of this year's Worldcon. And we expect these items to be handled at the next meeting on July 26th. So for items E.1, clarifying active bids, E.2, clarifying Hugo Award Administrator's discretion, E.3, clarifying best graphic story or comic, E.4, clarifying best series, E.5, clarifying the best dramatic presentation categories, and E.6, clarifying nominee diversity. For all 6 of those items, I am recommending a debate time of 2 minutes. If there is any objection to my proposed debate time for those items, you can raise the hand in Zoom. Is there any objection to those proposed debate times? Okay, seeing none, debate times on E.1 through E.6 are set at 2 minutes each. So next, moving to page 32 of the agenda for E.7, clarifying WSFS membership rights A, I'm suggesting 4 minutes. For E.8, clarifying WSFS membership rights B, I'm suggesting 6 minutes. For E.9, Hugo Award software source, I'm suggesting 4 minutes. For E.10, site selection concordance, I'm suggesting 4 minutes. And for E.11, mandated Hugo Award admin reports, yes, that is the full title, I am suggesting 4 minutes. Is there any objection to my proposed debate times for items E.7 to E.11? Okay, seeing none, the debate time for items E.7 through E.11 are set as proposed. Moving to page 35 of the agenda for item E.12, Speculative Poetry Hugo Award, I am proposing a debate time of 10 minutes. For E.13, Retire NASFIC, I am proposing a debate time of 10 minutes. For E.14, Unnecessary PII, Personally Identifying Information, I am suggesting a debate time of 6 minutes. And for E.15, End the False Binary, I am suggesting a debate time of 10 minutes. Is there any objection to the proposed debate times for E.12 through 15? Okay. See none, debate times on E.12 through 15 are set as proposed. I did also want to, let me check. I have an email really quick that I need to confirm I'm remembering this correctly. Okay. So the agenda as originally published says that we are taking up the ratifications at the next meeting on July 26th. We have had a request from the original maker of E.15 and the false binary to wait to take up that item until the August 1st meeting, as they are not available on the July 26th meeting. So since this wasn't something that was originally published in the agenda, it is generally taken as a motion to postpone definitely. But I'm just going to ask the body, is there any objection to postponing taking up E.15 and the false binary until not earlier than the August 1st meeting? And it may be that we don't get there in the schedule until August 1st anyways, but if we do finish the other ratifications, we would not take it up before then. I am not seeing any objection, and so we will say that E.15 and the false binary has been postponed definitely to not be taken up before the August 1st meeting. Okay. And then we are going to set debate times on the new constitutional changes. So these items will come up after we handle the ratifications, the business passed on. So
Mixed Chair, there's a request for you in the Discord real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so there's just been a similar request made about E.14. My apologies for not seeing that. So E.14, there's also a request for that to be delayed. So E.14 is unnecessary PII. So the original maker of that is not available until at the July 26th meeting. So is there any objection to also postponing E.4 to not be taken up before August 1st? Okay. I don't see an objection, and so E.14 is postponed to not be taken up until August 1st. Okay. So, new constitutional changes. So, these will come up after we are done with business passed on. So that we are specifically going to try to handle F.8, purposeful proportionality, on the July 26th meeting, because we know the proposer is not available at the August 1st meeting. That was already published in the agenda. For the rest of them, they will be brought up once we're done with business passed on. So we may be able to take up other items at the July 26th meeting. They may wait until the August 1st meeting. It will depend on how long we spend on the business passed on, essentially. But for these items, these are the debate times that I am proposing. For F.1, creation of ethics ombuds office, 10 minutes. F.2, there's no business like virtual business, 10 minutes. F3, conversion rights, 6 minutes. F4, fixed bid deadlines, 6 minutes. F5, advanced notice of business meeting deadlines, 6 minutes. And responsive late business, 6 minutes. I do see a hand in the chat. Cliff, if you are wanting to object to these debate times, can you please lower your hand and then re-raise it when I ask for the objection, so I'm clear that that's what's happening. So is there any objection on these debate times as proposed for items F.1 to F.6? Okay, so it looks like maybe Cliff wasn't even wanting to object to that itself. Okay. Seeing no objections, the debate times for F1 to F6. Okay, so now I am seeing an objection. Okay, so I think there was an objection to the debate times for F1 to F.6. Okay, so we are going to move through these in order. Okay, is there an objection to the debate time for F.1? Creation of Ethics Ombuds Office, 10 minutes. Okay, there's no objection to F.1. I am understanding that the hand was related to F.8, an item that was not currently in front of us. So just so that I'm very clear, I'm going to ask once again if there is an objection to setting these debate times for F1 to F6. The only hands that should be raised are if you are objecting to setting a debate time for items F1 through F6 from what I have proposed. Is there any objection to these proposed debate times? Okay, seeing none, the debate times for F1 to F6 are set as proposed. Okay, so we are now going to go to F7 through F9. So I believe I have a couple parliamentary inquiries or things that essentially function as that. So the first question is if it would be in order to move F.8 to be postponed to a certain time at next week's meeting. So it is already in our agenda that we will be trying to take up F.8 at that meeting. So essentially we would finish the business passed on, except for the items that we postponed to August 1st, and then take up F.8. So my understanding, Cliff Dunn, is that you are wanting to postpone it like to a specific time at that time. That would be in order if you wish to make such a motion. My hope was that we would handle setting debate times, and that then we could handle things like specific motions regarding postponing indefinitely or object to consideration. So you put the hand down, so I'm going to take it to mean that that's what you're doing. If you're wanting to just specifically set a time on F.8, I will go ahead and recognize you for that specific purpose, since we did do that on the other items. Sorry, I know this has gotten a little weird. It just means Cliff's getting real good at practicing the raise hand function. So I will recognize Cliff.
Yes, no, and because things were jumping around a bit, I didn't want to miss the chance to direct that we take up. You've allocated 10 minutes, so that we take it up no later than, let's say, 45 minutes before the end of the meeting. The next meeting. It's just I want to make sure that this actually is gotten through, even if we have to jump out of order in the constitutional stack.
Okay. So the motion is to postpone F.8 purposeful proportionality definitely to be taken up no later than, that would be, okay, we start at 9 a.m. We run to 12:30, 45. So 11:45 a.m. Pacific, is that correct?
That is what I have.
Okay. So the motion is to postpone F.8 definitely to be taken up no later than 11:45 a.m. Pacific at the July 26th meeting. Is there a second? Somebody wants to raise the hand. Okay, I do see a second. If we can go ahead and lower the hands. Is there any objection to postponing F.8 definitely until no later than 11:45 a.m. Pacific at the July 26th meeting? Okay. Seeing none, it is postponed definitely until no later than 11:45 a.m. Pacific at the July 26th meeting. Okay, returning to debate times. So for F.7, oh, right, nope, I had another parliamentary inquiry. So my understanding is that there is an intention for there to be a motion to withdraw F.7, limitation on listed contributors. So that would be in order. So it would be in order when that item is in front of us. Also, it would be in order to make that motion when there are no items pending. So I am going to request, so that motion could be made now. I am going to request that we set debate times first, and then handle any parliamentary motions so that we know we're good to go on the debate times. So for the debate times, I am recommending for F.7 limitation of listed contributors 10 minutes. For F.8 purposeful proportionality, I am recommending a debate time of 10 minutes. And for F.9, the tie that doesn't bind, I am recommending a debate time of 4 minutes. Is there any objection to the debate times that I have recommended? Okay, see none. Debate times on F.7 through F.9 are set as proposed. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and recognize Olav for a motion regarding F.7.
I move that this be removed from the agenda, and that's it.
Okay, so Olav is the original maker of this motion, and so he is requesting to withdraw the motion that is before the assembly. So it is properly before us, but it is within the purview of the maker to request to withdraw it. So I'm going to ask, so per our rules, I should first treat this as a question of unanimous consent. I do have several parliamentary inquiries asking why. So generally, this is not a request that is considered debatable, but brief explanatory statements are allowed to be made by the person making the request. So Olav, I will recognize you if you wish to just give a brief explanation of why you are making this request.
A significant amount of debate about this has taken place on other forums, such as File 770 and Blue Sky. Although this was made with the intention of creating a consistency between one year and the next, it's clear that this particular proposal does not have the support of enough members of the community, and perhaps some other solution providing consistency can be created at some future date.
Okay, thank you. Hold on, I have a question from my parliamentarian in the chat. One second. Okay, so because this is a little weird, I'm going to go ahead and answer the question that my parliamentarian asked, because I think there might be other folks that are wondering. So For those that are familiar, our standing rules have, or maybe it's the Constitution, our rules have a specific process that must be followed regarding withdrawing motions, but that is specifically about withdrawing a proposal that has been submitted before the agenda is published. So that's basically if you submitted something to the business meeting staff and then went psych, that is, the rules that we have are specifically about that process. We are at the point where this motion has been made and essentially seconded by having more than one proposer sign on. And so it is properly before the body. So per our parliamentary authority, Robert's Rules of Order, there is a specific process that after the motion is properly before the body and it belongs to the meeting as a whole, there is a process that is followed then if the maker wishes to withdraw the motion. And so that is where we are now. So the question that my parliamentarian asked is basically, is this in order without explicit consent from all of the makers of the motion? And my answer is that it like, I'm not making an official ruling because there wasn't an actual point of order made, but this is responding to the parliamentary inquiry, is that it is in order because the text we have, the rules that we have that specifically require all of the proposers to sign on, that's about the proposal that is submitted and withdrawn before the publication of the agenda. We are now this is a completely different situation, and so we are just following the rules that are in our parliamentary authority, Robert's Rules of Order. So the original, and Olaf as the first listed maker of the motion is considered to be like the maker of the motion in terms of Robert's rules, where we consider a motion to really have one maker. So the maker of F.7, limitation on listed contributors, has requested the consent of the body to withdraw the motion and explain why. I see a hand has gone up, but I haven't asked for any objections yet. And so to help my own clarity, I'm going to ask that those hands be put down. Okay. Is there any objection to allowing the member to withdraw the motion? Okay. I do see objections to allowing the member to withdraw the motion. So at this point, I believe we moved to an immediate vote. I'm just going to check paragraph 33 real quick to make sure I'm remembering. Yeah, okay. So since there has been an objection, we will move. So this functions as a question of privilege, and so we will just move to an immediate vote. And so this will require a majority vote. And so the form of the vote will be, do you allow the maker of the motion to withdraw F.7? So a vote in favor is saying that yes, F.7 can be withdrawn. A vote against is saying no, F.7 cannot be withdrawn and should stay on the agenda. So just to clarify once again, a vote in favor will be a vote to allow the motion to be withdrawn by the maker and remove it from the agenda. And a vote against will be saying the maker cannot withdraw the motion and that it will stay on the agenda. I am going to, before we open the vote, I am going to wait a few seconds just to see if I have any parliamentary inquiries or questions asking me to clarify. Okay, seeing none, we can go ahead and open the vote on whether to allow the maker of the motion to withdraw F.7. This will be a simple majority vote. A vote in favor is to allow the motion to be withdrawn and removed from the agenda. A vote against is to not allow it to be withdrawn and to keep it on the agenda. Okay, we can go ahead and close the vote. Okay. With 74 in favor and 16 against, we have granted permission for F.7 to be withdrawn. And so F.7 is withdrawn and is removed from the agenda. I really thought we might end early today, and that it didn't happen. So there was a parliamentary inquiry earlier about things like object to consideration and postpone indefinitely. So before all of that, my intention was that we would be going through the items to see if there was any of that, but we are, wait, am I doing time zone? Hold on. Am I doing time zone math completely wrong right now? We still have like
12, it is 12:40 p.m. Pacific time.
Okay, so yes, we have been, yes, okay, so we have been open for a little over 3.5 hours. Thank you. I got real confused for a second, y'all. I'm very sorry. Okay, so given where we are, when we start things next week, we will be on the business passed on with the debate times that we have set, and we will handle those, and then we will move into new constitutional changes. And if people wish to make motions like postpone indefinitely and object to consideration, those will be in order when those items come up, since we were not able to get to them other than setting debate times at their preliminary business meeting. So I'm going to pause for about 15 seconds to see if any of my staff are going to yell at me that there's a thing I really need to do before we adjourn for the day that I've forgotten about. I do see one of my staff. I see multiple of my staff typing. Okay, that's not for the meeting. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and say that this meeting, the preliminary business meeting, is adjourned, and I will see you all at 9 a.m. Pacific on July 26th. Thank you very much.